Deadlift variations, all right? So we're talking deadlift variations today, okay? From the floor, RDL, and trap bar deadlifts. Those are the three deadlift variations I'm gonna talk about. I'm Steve with the Strength Students Podcast, so let's get it started here. So first variation is gonna be our deadlift from the floor, okay? Now the thing about deadlifting from the floor, right? The only athletes who need to deadlift from the floor essentially are powerlifters, okay? Outside of that, no one else really needs to deadlift from the floor. Athletes, day-to-day gym goer, anybody, right? Needs. You can if you want to. I'm not saying don't. You can pull from the floor if you want to, but there's no real need to pull from the floor, okay? It's a little safer to pull from some other places, like from the hip, like we're gonna show you in the RDL, especially if you don't have that range of motion to pull from the floor, okay? So if it's tough for you to even bend over in that hinged deadlift position to get to the floor, the conventional deadlift may not be the best option for you, so that's why we're gonna go through some other conventional deadlift variations as well, okay? So let's just get started with our regular conventional deadlift. So set up here, let's come around to the front here. Set up here, I'm gonna find a nice comfortable foot position, all right? Usually like right inside your hips, and you wanna line up that bar right over your shoelaces, okay? Right over the tip of your shoelaces. That's usually a good point as far as adjusting the bar there, okay? Now from here, just like we talked about in our squat, breaking at the hips first, except I'm gonna continue to break at the hips here, okay? Not as much knee bend, okay? So from here, as I adjust the bar, my butt's gonna go back, slight knee bend, okay? So a couple different grips here. So let's go over the different grips. First is gonna just be our regular double overhand grip. So I'm gonna have both hands right over the grip. My hands are gonna be essentially right outside my hips, okay? So this would be a conventional grip. I can go mixed grip, which is a pretty popular grip with the deadlift, turning my hand over here, okay? Or another grip here, you can go monkey grip, okay? And that's just essentially not grabbing the bar. This is a variation of your grip that essentially just saves your grip. So you're not squeezing the bar like you are in your conventional or mixed, you're just gonna essentially create your hands with hooks, just like you're a pirate. So from here, monkey grip, I'm not grabbing the bar, okay? So I'm not clamping, I'm just holding right here, okay? So those are our different grips. So once we find our grip, whichever grip we want to use here, I'm addressing the bar here. I'm pushing my hips back, my chest is coming forward, addressing the bar here, okay? Slight bend in the knee. Now from here, I'm going to stand all the way to the hip, squeeze the butt through at the top, lock it all the way up, and then back down, okay? I'm all the way up. Now as I'm coming down, I want to focus on a couple things. I want to hinge in my hips and push my butt as far back as I can. Once I get past my knees, I'm going to bend the knees, okay? So knee bend, reverse all the way up, pushing those hips back, deadlift all the way past the knees, and bend the knees, okay? So those are the couple simple points we want to focus on in our conventional deadlift. Now, just like we talked about before, perhaps pulling from the floor is not your best option, okay? If you personally can't get into that full range of motion, if that's not a range of motion that you own, that you don't have, but yet you still want to train the same movement, train that hip hinge, train that deadlift, then we have a different variation, okay, the RDL. Okay, this is a great variation for training the same movement, okay, training the same posterior chain muscles, essentially getting the same benefits of the deadlift, just not coming from the floor. So what we're going to do is, everything's the same here, except what we're going to do is we're going to pull the bar from the rack, all right? So I'm from the rack here, you can either set up on the bumpers here, or just set up your regular rack. However you set up your rack, whatever. You just kind of want it right up at your hip or knee line, okay? So from here, I'm starting the same way I would for a deadlift, except I'm starting in the opposite order. I'm starting up at the hips, okay? Now from here, everything's the same. And what I want to focus on doing is, I want to try to get at least right below my knees to the middle of my shins. So from here, breaking at the hips, pushing that butt all the way back, travel past my knees, right to the shins, and back up, okay? And now, if we can't get to that shin position, that's fine. We're gonna do the same thing, right to the top of the knee. If you have to, then back. Or in some cases, if you even don't have that range of motion, from here, you can just go right to the mid-thigh, top of the knee, and back, okay? As long as we're pushing the hips back, hinging out those hips, letting that chest come forward, getting this nice hip hinge position, and then exploding on the way up, okay? So same deadlift principles, just different modality of performing that deadlift, okay? So we're going from the hip rather than pulling from the floor if you don't have that range of motion. Now the last variation I'm gonna go over is a trap bar deadlift. okay? So essentially pulling from the floor here just like our deadlift, except our mechanics are going to be a little different, okay? So I'm not grabbing the bar in front of me, I'm stepping the trap bar here. I'm essentially going to be holding on to the bar like I'm holding on to 2 suitcases, okay? So I'm breaking at the hips, I'm addressing the bar here, hands on the handles, all the way up and back, okay? So same concept here, hinging at the hips, all the way up. I'm breaking here, past the knees, knee bend, and then back up, okay? So this is, again, if you have that limited range of motion, maybe if you have some limited range in your shoulders, you can't hold that bar out front. This is just an easier way, think of it as an easier deadlift, okay? An easier way to perform the deadlift. Train a heavy deadlift, train an intense deadlift without the mobility and range of motion restrictions as a barbell, okay? So those are deadlift variations, guys. Make sure you check out our deadlift episode on our Strength Students Podcast YouTube. Thanks for joining us.